if you look at the Chinese expansion to the west, I only have here a map of their expressways, their highways. They already have a highway system that is almost as large as ours, and ours was begun in the 1950s. So it's extraordinary how many roads they have built. And if we had a map that showed their high-speed train development, that's probably even more impressive, because whereas we do have a pretty good inter-highway system for roads in the United States, we have this silly little bumpy line that goes from Washington to Boston called the Osceola, and the Chinese are sort of building the equivalent of that about every 6 months, and it's a damn sight better and faster and smoother and everything. So the logistical developments in China are part and parcel of their movement to the west. They are also supporting projects, as I say, in Central Asia and in Pakistan in particular. And perhaps the most important development in Pakistan is their help in developing this huge port called Gwadar, which is right almost on the same, almost right up to the Iranian border. Now, why is Gwadar so important? 2 reasons. One, because it takes the pressure off Karachi, which has been Pakistan's only port and has been overwhelmed with congestion. And secondly, Gwadar will ultimately be connected to the network of roads and rails that are being built that will take you up into Central Asia and China. It's a deep water port, and it is, of course, something that if you are sitting in the Indian Ministry of Defense, particularly in the Navy Department, you look at very, very carefully, because India is also, by the way, developing a deep water port in Iran at Shah Bahar. So I'll come back to this in a minute. There are all these sort of theories about how infrastructure projects that are being built for very sane economic reasons do also have strategic implications in the long run. That map is just to show that Uzbekistan, by the way, if they ever get all these projects underway, will be a very important crossroads because of its unique geography. I've got some maps here of the pipeline and systems. Those are the existing ones. These are the ones that are under construction and being proposed. Not all of them will be built. That's the ones for gas. Remember, the world is full of pipelines that were built but aren't used now. So the fact that you see a pipeline on a map and the fact that it actually has been built doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be used. If we had a map here of the Middle East pipeline system, you'd see about half of them are not used because of unresolved political conflict, for instance, between Syria and Israel. Now, let me come back to the Gulf. Why is it important to come back to the Gulf? A, it's where the money is. B, it's where we're most worried about war breaking out. And C, it's where enormous investments are being made by the Asian countries, as well as Americans, as well as Europeans, as well as the Gulfists themselves, in projects that are quite mind-boggling. And if only a quarter of these projects ever get completed, they are going to fundamentally change the way we do business in all sorts of different ways. Again, the print's too small, and it would take too long to go through them. But what you'll find is that all the key countries, Kuwait, Bahrain, Doha, Qatar, the Emirates, as well as Oman, are all investing huge amounts of money in infrastructure, in hotels, in facilities to attract tourists as well as businessmen, high-level tourists, low-level tourists, tourists from sports facilities, the likes of which you have never seen. Dubai, as you know, hosts the world's richest horse race every year, one of the world's richest golf tournaments every year, seven-a-side rugby tournaments every year. It is home to the world's largest indoor downhill ski resort. When it's 120 outside, you can go and ski in Dubai. And if you just think for a moment about the amount of electricity it takes to keep that ski slope cold, how much electricity it takes to light up the new skyscrapers, the Burj Khalifa, the tallest in the world. The Kuwaitis hope to build one even higher, a kilometre high. If you think about the amount of electricity that's needed, all those golf courses that need watering, fresh water in the desert, right? The bottom line is, this explains why there is such enormous interest in this part of the world, as well as other parts of the world, in nuclear power as a way of generating electricity rather than burning oil or gas or coal. So the development projects in the Gulf themselves have very, very important strategic implications, because countries that develop nuclear power plants and develop nuclear capabilities, like Iran, have the possibility, of using that material for other purposes. And that's why countries like the UAE have been so diligent in trying to get complete American approval for any construction they do of a nuclear power plant, to make sure that it's under complete IAEA safeguards so that we will not object. And of course, we spent months negotiating with the UAE, and the agreement is considered the paradigm, the perfect paradigm that we want to see in other Middle East countries. And guess what? Guess who got the contract for building this nuclear power plant in the UAE? South Korea. So, there's a lot going on in the development field that has both economic and strategic implications. The airports in the Gulf, why are they so important? A, because they're phenomenal. The new airport that Dubai is building, not the current one, which is pretty nice, I must say, but the new one is going to have 6 parallel runways. 6. Sufficiently distanced that 6 super jumbos, the Airbus 380s, could land simultaneously, in theory. Okay? Now, that's not going to happen at Kennedy, at Dulles, London Heathrow, Frankfurt. It's going to happen nowhere in Europe, but it is happening here. The problem is that this is pretty much a similar model that Doha is developing, and Abu Dhabi, and Kuwait, and to some extent Bahrain. And not all of them can become the great hub for the Middle East. But in the case of Dubai, for instance, they're way ahead of the game, because that's where Emirates Air operates out of.